set the line right here.
Okay, all right, because I'm going to pace. I know me, I'm going to pace. I'd like to welcome everybody here. This to me shows interest from a part of the community that I feel strongly about. This has been a tough election, and it's going to get tougher as far as I'm concerned because it's not over yet. But I would like to have the opportunity to talk with all of you and get your input. This is not my input. I'm not going to be giving you lectures or telling you what I'm going to do or not do. I'm going to listen to you tonight and get your input. I'll give some of you a background who don't know me well enough or not connected with me personally. I came to Alabama in 1958, I got married down here, so it was about a year prior to that. 1957 is when I came to Alabama. So technically I've been in Alabama a long time except for touring the military. And I believe I can express that I know something about this community. Married to Paris. That's like marrying half of the community. Right? I was a Yankee and I was not rapidly accepted. I had to prove myself. And I think I did, at least to those who were closest to me. So my history is I came to Alabama, I married a Southern girl, took her out up to Connecticut when I got out of the Army. She lost the first baby and we came back. I stayed after we came back for a little while, went to work for the city. You believe that? In 1959 or 60, I went to work for this city. So I am an old timer. Anybody want to guess what my job was? Garbage man. Oh. I worked the garbage trucks when Dick Champion, for those like Tommy who can remember Dick Champion, was on that white elephant.
Rudy Bragg.
And did Jacksonville. As a matter of fact, the Jacksonville garbage system back in that day hired from the drunk tank. That's not how I got on, but actually the people I worked with, there was one driver and myself, and about every second week after that second payday, one of them would end up working for free for the next couple of weeks. So that'll tell you what kind of crew I grew up with and learned with. I went back in the Army. The reason I went back in the Army is the same reason that a lot of people have today. The pay wasn't good enough. I had a baby coming, and there was no way I could afford that baby and the hospitalization stuff. So my choice was go back in the Army, and we got in 30 days, I think it was 32, 33 days, prior to the baby being born, which made the government have to cover it. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm just an average person. I came to the City Hall when I first decided to run. And I think Doc can remember it. I walked in and I told her I didn't believe the government could be as stupid as I seen it being. Now I'm part of that stupidity. and I'm facing it as a group. I have learned over 8 years that the easy decisions aren't here. There is no easy decision. When you pass an ordinance, you're passing a law. When you pass a law, somebody gets hurt and somebody benefits. And you cannot balance them out perfectly. But what I do promise to do is to study them, work to try to get all the facts, and then make my decision. Whether I agree with you or not, I'm not here to make you feel like every time you push an issue that I got to agree with you. Because if I don't believe in it, I will push back. I will try to give you the other point of view. But when I get done, it will be what I believe is best for the city. And with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. I want to hear what you think is important to the city, not what I think is important. I want to hear what you think. I want to see ways of bringing this community back together, not little pockets here and pockets there.
George, I've got some tough questions for you.
Go ahead.
And my name is Klaus Duncan, and I haven't always been a supporter of George, and I'll be very honest with you. And after a number of years, he changed my mind. And if I support somebody, I go all the way. And so, George, here's your first question. And now, you're a friend of mine. It's going to be tough. George, I didn't bring my glasses. I thought you were going to eat these things. And question one. Oh, no. George, what can be done to stop property owners from buying up houses and then boarding them up? I know some owners who buy houses, never rent them out, and board them up. How can we stop it?
Well, it depends on the situation. From what I've learned in looking into the whole realm of unkept property, rentals, and all those things. First of all, let's talk about the effect of things, okay? And we'll try to answer your question. When you are talking about your neighborhood, all right, it's personal. When it's personal, you don't take the logic to look at it any other way. You want your neighborhood clean in the way you want it. So when you look at it that way, it's that. Now, when they board up houses, under what conditions did they buy? Did they buy them at the courthouse steps? Which is a whole different situation from buying them from an individual. Okay? I talked a lot of times with different people. A lot of houses in this area are boarded up because they were bought on courthouse steps. That means, if I understand the law, and don't quote me on law, but if I understand the law, you buy the house on the courthouse steps, you don't own it. You're just managing it for the state. Okay? If you ever try to deal like Mark Williams does with the state and try to get them to cut the grass, you got a problem. At least with the guy who bought the house and boarded it up, you can get him to cut the grass. And yell at me if I'm wrong, Mark.
Go ahead.
Okay? So we have certain individuals are buying on courthouse step, boarding them up, okay, and that's the way they go, because if they invest much more money into them, they may not recoup it. The owner of that property can come back and reclaim it within 3 years. Once you get past that, I don't know. But that's the research that has to happen, and it has to be done individual. Now, if you're talking about a property owner who bought it from somebody else, now we got a different situation, because he owns that house or co-owns it, and therefore you got to look at it from that perspective. In that particular case, I think our code enforcement officer does the job that he needs to do to get those problems solved. You just got to give him time. It does not happen overnight. Try a suit. See how long it takes you to settle it. They move fast in what I see going on. Does that answer you, Duncan? Or okay. Anybody else, please?
I have one to follow, because Klaus has given me a good segue. You're talking about houses, and first off, when you do buy them on the courthouse step, you can invest money into it. If the owner wants it back, they have to remunerate you for it. But, perfect case in point, right across the street, pink house. My house is the yellow one right next door to it. As a business owner and owning various properties, that's really a negative for me. And, you know, it's going to come up to a hearing. We all know that, anybody who's involved in the process. And Mark and David have really worked hard to dot all the I's, cross the T's, whatever. And this particular investor has about 30 different houses around town that are terrible. And George, I know you know every one of them.
I know every one of them because I've looked at it.
Yeah, you've done your due diligence, and I want to thank you for that. Come this hearing, are you going to say no to extending the time period for this guy and support our city inspectors? Because anything else than that is going to send a horrible, terrible message to all these other investors like that.
I will tell you this, I'm not going to prejudge what I do until I hear everything. I haven't heard everything until it comes before me. So I'm not going to prejudge and decide what I'm going to vote when it comes before me, okay? And that may seem like a cop-out. But to me, until I hear all sides of the story, I shouldn't make a decision. Do I have a tendency to want to go one way? Yes. In the back of my mind, I think I know what I'm going to do. But until it goes through its complete process, I'm not going to make up my mind. Okay? Now, it'd be nice for me to say, yes, I'll do this and support you, but that's not the way I operate. I got to hear it all. Once I've heard it all, then I'll make my decision. And it may be wrong and it may be right. Just because I make it doesn't make it right. I've made enough wrong decisions already in this position, but at least I give it the opportunity. Does that get us through that? Is there another question?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I don't want to ask all the questions, so please, join in. But I do have a number of them right here. How do we get the college administration involved in helping the city and with students who are living off campus? And, we love our students, bottom line, but some of them do a lot of damage. So how can we control it? How can we get the college?
And how we should be trying to work together even more. The college student is a college student, a young adult. You don't want him living in your neighborhood because he is a college student. He does not want to live in your neighborhood. But until we make his neighborhood where he wants to live, then we're not solving the problem. How do we cooperate with the college? We cooperate with the college by talking to them, by listening to one another, not pointing fingers at one another, by listening to one another. Listen to the college student. The college student came to the meetings and they said, we lived over in this part of town and I don't like it. That's why we came to the neighborhoods, the R1s, to get away from what they didn't like. We passed some laws that I think Tommy would say that are effective, that we are able to implement now and get better control in some of those neighborhoods. I don't know that they're 100% right yet, but at least it was a step in the right direction. That college student is somebody's son and daughter. They have been brought up like most of us have been brought up, okay? We need to talk to them. We need to get them involved in our community as much as possible. They're temporary, but they're still good people living within our community. What we're doing is sending a message to them that is, we don't want you in our neighborhood, and it's the wrong message as far as I'm concerned. We cannot get it all together. How do we go about straightening it out? The comprehensive land use plan is in effect right now. It's being done. Get involved in it. Don't just sit back and look at it and complain about it. Get involved now. The comprehensive land use plan will set up the zoning for the future, the way that we zone for the college, and all the other things that are going to happen in this community is based on that plan. If you gripe 4 years down the line about what's on that plan and didn't get involved with it, at least opinion-wise, if not part of it, then we haven't gained anything over the last 10 years that it was done. That is an important plan. It's something that we must do. It must be done as well as possible. It's going to get more of the answers than you want than anything else you can do. Because zoning comes from the comprehensive land use plan. I think there's some people in here, we read things in the comprehensive land use plan that we thought meant something. When we talk about college expansion and RDS, it's up there. When you read it, you thought you knew what you were talking about, but when you go to implement it, you find out that the terminology doesn't mean the same thing to different people. So when I come in and I look at the comprehensive land use plan, like most of you do, and I see this designation here, and I go to the book, and the book says you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do this, and then I talk to a lawyer, I find that ain't what they meant. What it says is not what you may think it meant. So you need to get involved with it while it's being formulated so that you don't have an impression when you open the thing up and you see a couple of words that you interpret one way and legally they're interpreted another. You got to get involved in it. How much time can you get involved with it? You can't do a lot. I mean, you can't study it. That's what I'm getting paid to do if you don't fire me. Okay? I can study it. But you still need to be part of the system that says, do your job right, study it right, and don't make it wrong. And there's no other way I can say it. But remember, the college student is part of this city, has been for years and years. The schools were started by the churches in this community. It wasn't started from federal government or state government. Schools were started by churches in this community, okay? And they have evolved into where the church is kept out of the schools and things are funny. But think about the history of this city. It's important. And the direction that you want to go in is not like the old-fashioned days. I respect my father-in-law more than any person in the world. He couldn't read or write. But I'll tell you what, he could cut a cow, a pig, slaughter it, raise his garden, fix his tractor. He could do everything except read or write. What respect did he have? It wasn't like where I come from as a Yankee. Power and money got your respect. In Alabama, you know what got your respect? Goodness. He was a deacon of his church, respected by the people in his church. And he taught me more than I'll probably learn otherwise. Next question. I'm getting emotional.
George, where can we go to study that plan you were talking about?
Lynn Causey would be glad to help anybody through the understanding of that as she has time. Lynn Causey gets beat up because Lynn Causey must stand there when you don't fit that plan and tell you you don't fit. This is not designed for you. This is designed for the city, and if it affects you negatively, she's got to be the one that says it affects you negatively. That's not a job for sleight of heart, and it's sometimes very aggravating, but that's the one that will be coordinating the effort from the city side on doing the comprehensive land use plan. And I'll tell you how you deal with Lynn Causey. All right? You go in and ask her. Don't go in telling her. You ask Lynn Causey for her advice on something, and she'll carry you by the hand through it and get it done. You go in telling her that you know more than she does, you're on your own.
That's a good philosophy.
Thank you, Octave.
Is that available online to be reviewed?
The comprehensive land use plan? I don't think it is.
No, sir.
Will it
Is
be?
that the thing that
It will
regional
be.
planning
The new
committee
one
is
will
doing
be,
in
but
that?
currently it's not. But I have copies in my office.
I had a question here.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's something the regional planning committee is doing. I guess they're going to have a meeting up at JSU.
They
The
sent out,
Regional Planning Committee?
the East Alabama Planning
Yeah, the
Commission.
East Alabama is
Yeah.
part of the comprehensive
Yeah,
land use
okay.
plan.
They had a
yes.
survey that they had the address for in the Sunday paper, and we went in and filled it out, and they are having a meeting up at the,
It's a long process. It looks at the demographics, the changes in demographics. It tries to predict the future. It's not an easy process. It gets very, but the Planning Commission and those will be working together to put it together. They're the ones that put the one that's in place now together. But time has passed and our neighborhoods have changed and our city has changed. Just start looking back at where our city was 10 years ago and I can look across the street from my house and see 20 changes, and now I got a tree down in the backyard. So Truman Nora to get mad at me, I guess. Other questions?
I got a comment.
Go ahead.
There is some good students here. There's some star ones, but there's some good ones. seen both sides. The other comment is, I wasn't asked to come down here, but I know that George does investigate when he's got a problem. I'm on the Civil Service Board, and I know about him investigating when he didn't know I knew. But he has come and done some investigating, not just shoot from the hip.
Yeah, he does his
But
homework.
I suppose everybody that's here already knows all of that. That's all.
I go back into some of your history, and I remember, I don't know what you're referring to, but I remember when I was trying to get the council and the group together, and I know, I felt from the history, and I know some of the things that was not an easy thing to do in the past and cause heartaches, but it's still something we need to do. The Civil Service Board is there for a reason, okay? And they have to be able to do their job. As a council, if we're not giving them the information they need, or we're giving the information in such a way that they cannot be able to help us, then we get further in problems. We got a merit, every budget year, I don't care what year it was, we always get into the debate. Merit system promotion, which is part of the Civil Service Board. We hire a person on at this rate, and we increase them over the years to some such and such a rate. It's not automatic. It's based on merit. But what does it take to do it right for the Civil Service Board to back us when we say this person doesn't deserve a step raise? It takes recording. It takes keeping up with the history. If you are a supervisor in the city and you have an employee that's not doing his job, not what you don't like, because that's what they need to protect, just because you don't like it. What they need to know is that this person is not performing, and you've got to document that. If you don't document it, you're in trouble. I sat up looking at a person's job description, and I said, one of the things I said, and I'll stand behind this, if that man must evaluate another man or woman, then they are a supervisor that has one of the toughest jobs there is. Going up to an employee and saying, you ain't doing the job that I want you to do, and this is what I expect, or else I'm going to be decreasing your pay. And document it so the Civil Service Board knows. That is the tough part of being a supervisor. That is the tough part of being a supervisor. And not only do you document it so that you have a record, so that when you do try to keep him from getting his merit promotion, and hopefully that's all you're documenting for, you also are trying to find a way to help him get better at doing his job. You'd like to instill in that man, while you're doing those type of, I don't want to call it confrontations, evaluations. You want to instill in that man, what do you want to be in the city of Jacksonville, and how do I help you get there? Not, you're in trouble because I don't like the way you were doing, or you were late 3 days. Okay? That's to do. It's harder to help them along and go straight. And when it comes down to it that they have to be fired, you better have it documented, or it won't happen. To me, there's a fine balance of being a good guy who works with the crews and grew up in the ditches, and becoming a supervisor who manages those people. You got to motivate them. Everybody can't do that. Different characteristics of people out there, just like I can't motivate everybody in this room to do the things I think need to happen to get the city to go forward. So anyway, I went too far on that subject probably, but I don't know which one you're talking about, but that's mine.
Well, it's a lot better than it used to be. I'll agree with what you said. This is not what this forum's about, what we're talking about right now, but the supervisors are doing a much better job than they have in the past.
I'm glad to hear that, especially from you and your group. One of the other problems is when we write job descriptions, are we giving you the information in the job description for you to be able to get us the best person to our interviews when we make the final pick? That's not an easy thing. And we have not, in my opinion, we have not talked well back and forth. But the personality of the council can be conflicting too. And we got to watch the way we go about doing this, and I take it that we've never done it right, even up till now. I mean, we still need to strengthen that someplace. Go ahead. And I'll be off on this subject all night if I ain't careful.
Before I ask my next question, I want to I go back what that gentleman said about you. George is one of the hardest working councilmen I've ever seen. I don't care where you, I do a lot of volunteer work in this town. And I can come down to the senior center, there's old George sitting. I come down here to the community center, there's George sitting. I go to the Home Depot, there's George. I go to City Hall, there's George. He's always there. And I know some of you people who work down there, you know what I'm talking about. So George, you're a hard worker. But my next question.
Go ahead.
Your opponent stated in the answer stall some time ago, we have enough city ordinances pertaining to R1. What's your take on R1 zoning? I know we brought it up in the city council, but I want you to tell the audience that.
As I see it, the person, R1 and the zoning laws are there to give us a situation that we desired. We want homes, we want families in R1s, traditional families. And that's what the zone, the comprehensive land use, and that did. So I'm all for that. The problem that I have with some of the things that are happening is, and again, I'm going to say this is not a reflection on people that what they're doing is wrong. It's a reflection on people, human beings. When it affects us personally, logic goes out the window for me or anybody else, okay? So when we are pushing, I take it you're referring to the two,
Yeah.
okay. So when we are pushing and logic goes out of the window, we're not looking at what effect this will have on the college student. Okay, when I first looked at it, we went from 5. The recommendation come back 3, and that's where I stood. I would have voted yes for 3, and I was voting no for 2. Because I'm looking at what effect does this have when we go to 2. If I own my own home and I suddenly get sick and my family doesn't want it and the market's bad and I can't sell it, then I'd like to be able at least to rent it until, something can work out for me. So that particular person is affected by it, and hey, if you believe you're not going to get sick, you ain't dealt with head injuries like I have, okay? Your whole life can change just like that. What you think you have, you don't have. Second effect, what message did we send to the college? We sent a message to the college that even if you behave, we don't want more than 2 of you in our neighborhood. When I talked to the college, they told me, we don't want to be in that neighborhood, but our neighborhood is no good. So the problem is, before we pass that all the way down to 2, I would have much rather seen us enforce the law, see if we could make the neighborhood at the college. And I called for, you work on that board, so I'll use you instead of going to Lynn Causey, because I called for that comprehensive land use plan, 3 years ago? And we were put back because part of the history you need in order to do the comprehensive land use plan would come about when the census happened. But the problems going on weren't going to wait on that census, weren't going to wait on the comprehensive land use plan, and with the people, what they wanted, they got, and I'm not backing off from that. I just would have went for 3 instead of 2. I would have followed the recommendation that we got from the group that we set up to give us a recommendation. And I know some of the other hard feelings that went on between that. We were just passing the buck because we didn't want to make the decision and so forth. But in looking at it, I think 3 would have been just as effective as 2. Some people agree, some people don't. That's my opinion. That's the way I voted, and I'll stand behind my vote.
To, again, segue off what you just said about, certain neighborhoods not being desirable to live in, We deal with faculty trying to find places, graduate students, parents looking for homes, and repeatedly they tell us Jacksonville is run down, and they also tell us that many of the rentals in Jacksonville are dumpy, horrible in there. Would you support inspections for rental housing, much like Gadsden and Anniston had?
That's a tough question. I don't know how to answer that. First of all, I don't rent houses, but I have house rentals. Somebody else rents them for me, okay? So I am legitimately, and I did go to the group at state level to find out, would that be a conflict of interest for me? And they told me no. And I did that before you did the zoning law, because some people brought it up to me. But the problem I have with it is you're going to have good renters, and you're going to have good people renting, and you're going to have bad people renting. Some of the good people renting are going a long way with little profit in order to get their places fixed up. There's others that aren't going to fix them up no matter what you do. Okay? How do you balance that out? You balance it out by basically the way we're doing it. The trouble is it's a slow process. It's a slow process. No, I would not support what they're doing in Anniston. Perfectly good example of it is that you are trying to legislate something that's not legislatable. You start getting too hard on the renter, he'll let the house fall apart even more, or jack the prices up to a point where nobody will buy it. Now that may seem bad, but I think there are a couple of alternatives to some of these problems. And I'm not going to present them now because I've not presented them to my council. And if I'm back in office, then I'll discuss it with them. Because everything I bring up that I think is a great solution gets shot down. I get one solution through per 100 that I try. But at least I keep on trying. And no, I disagree with you there. I don't think getting tighter on the back. We've gotten tighter. Are we using it? We now post, here's a family coming in, and if we had an unruly gathering there, and they sent the letter out to everybody, that's the first warning. If it happens the second time, what do? We post on the door that this is an unruly gathering place. If I'm coming through with my kids, and I got a grandson in college, at JSU as a matter of fact, and I see an unruly gathering posted on that door, do you think that I want that kid going there? I'm telling the people who are going to make the investment of where their kid lives in that house that this place has not been managed properly. And then the third time, what do? The third time we go after the license. And they can't rent without a license. And I don't care how big it is or how little it is, whether it's a duplex or it's the Grove. Is it the Grove, the proper name for it up here? You start getting them posted on the doors and the parents are coming in, they may tell them this is a gated community, and I'm not picking on that particular place. We have a lot like that, okay? This is a gated community, it's safe for your children, but unruly gathering posted on the door here, places you cannot rent, so therefore you pay the city a fine if you do rent them on a daily basis. That's the enforcement that will get their attention and get it done. I'm not for making more regulations to try to have our inspectors go in and inspect more. We don't need them inspecting rental property when we already have laws going. We just can't afford to keep them out there that much. We'll end up with a police state almost if we go in that direction. So it may not be the answer you want, but it's the answer I'll give you.
George, question. We mentioned ordinances, and we have a lot of ordinances on the books. Who acts our ordinances? Who determines? Please
Auburn.
explain that to us. Who,
Oh, I got an answer here, Auburn.
They all come from Auburn.
oh,
No,
No,
I
seriously.
don't know.
Seriously. Ask Mark.
let's not get into a back and forth this way, and not because I don't appreciate your answer, because I do. It looks like we've seen the copy. We do not reinvent the wheel. I sat down and wrote 2 ordinances that were so bad that I thought were good, that it was pitiful. I actually sat down and tried to write an ordinance. We usually go and look what other people are doing, people who've had that problem, trying to look at people that are similar to our city, in our case. Eventually, ordinances get written by our lawyers because they're the final say on what gets done. Usually, we just present the idea to the lawyer and let him come back to us, and then we either accept it or don't accept it. One of the hard things to me is conveying the negatives of an ordinance when we want them to write it. Because if we're saying we want you to write an ordinance that solves this problem, that doesn't mean that we want you to create another problem while you're writing it. So we got to be very clear on what we want them to write. And that's tough because we don't really know until we argue it out ourselves. But the ordinances, I'll say this much to ordinances, Mark Jones said it, and I'm going to back him on it. Mark Jones says we need to be reviewing our ordinances periodically. And we do. We have ordinances on the book that have been there so long, even we don't know what they are until we go in and look at them. We need to be reviewing so many of our ordinances as a council. This isn't the mayor's job anymore. It's the council's job on the new form of government. We're going under a new form of government. Hopefully it's going to work just as smoothly as the one we got, that the council and the mayor will cooperate on getting things done. But the job description becomes a little different. I'm running for a job. If I had to write a job description for me, it would be writing ordinances is one of them. Okay? I can't do it. I ain't smart enough. Even with a group of people, I ain't smart enough. I'm going to eventually end up over there with the lawyer who's going to tell me, boy, did you blow that one, in most cases. But that is one part of our job, writing ordinances. Okay, and a very important part of the job. Give me another job description. Somebody out here give me another job description. Come on, Chris, I was going to pick on you. One of our other job descriptions is investigating in the committees that we have. When we get assigned a committee, do we just sit back and watch and say, oh boy, you know, let them do what we're supposed to investigate as council people. We are supposed to report back to the rest of the council and to the mayor what we find in our investigation. And hopefully that investigation is going to say they're doing a fine job, because 99% of the time they are. But what you find out when you go out and investigate it, they could have done a better job had they had this tool. They could have done a better job had they had this description change, job description change. So you're not out there just to find fault with them and catch them not doing something they're supposed to do. You're supposed to be out there to find out what they need to get the job done and report back. I'll pick on Johnny. Me and Johnny have disagreed on a number of things over waterworks, gas, sewer board. But in the long run, that particular area is, we'll call it 60% better than it was when we first started 8 years ago. Not 100%, far from 100%, but 60% better. And a lot of it now is falling into, we've given you the tools to get the job done. And they're doing it. How much gas line did you put in this year, Barry? 5 miles of gas line this year. 5 altogether, 1. So the thing that the mayor and me had talked about is in gas pipeline. So 5 miles in 5 years, we're doing a mile a year, we're living up to what we did. How many meters are we supposed to change out a year? How many meters do we have? We're changing out those water meters. I can't give you a number right now because I haven't been that close to it, but we got a schedule to where we're staying ahead of everything. When I come into office, we had enough complaints coming in from ADM that we were being written up almost, God, I forget how far behind we were. There's an article on my website that I pulled up because I remembered it and stuck it there. REELECT.Areno.com. Go to it. Click on that button. You'll see the things that have been done as far as the waterworks, gas, and sewer board is concerned. Street department, I got that this last 4 years, and I haven't been as well doing well there. as I did with the other. The reason for it, it's hard to keep up with two of them. I'll be truthful with you. And it takes a while to get to know the people to where they have confidence in you so that they'll tell you what's going on. You don't go out to these people and tell them what they're going to do. We're not littles. We got to go out and we got to say to them, I am just a citizen when I'm not within the council. But I need input from you so I can make good decisions. I think my standard line is, I can't even remember it now. What is my standard line? Somebody tell me. I'm just a citizen when I'm not when I'm not with the council. So I can't tell you to do anything, but I need your information so that I can understand what you need. And let me tell you this, I learned this in the first 4 years. You better go into your next 4 years with an objective that you want to get done. Because it takes 4 years to get anything done in most cases. You can go in thinking you're going to make all these changes, you won't make none unless you go in with an objective that you want to get done. Comprehensive land use one is a great one, but I won't get it done. It is my objective, but I won't get it done. What's this?
I have a question.
Oh, okay, good. Go ahead.
You weren't going to shut up, so I figured I'd just put it back.
I thought he was giving the account now.
A lot of people don't like you. And
Thank you.
I mean, you know this, and
I know.
and we've talked about this before, and George is one of my favorite people here. But a lot of people, you know, the general consensus is that, you know, everybody's tired of you, you know, you like to say my name ends in no, you know, and you say no to everything. You argue just, you know, like somebody's wife. And
You said that. I didn't. My wife's right here.
So my question is, and the people who didn't vote for you are not here tonight. And since we're videotaping this, I was wondering, what would you say to the people who are not here, you know, to try to redeem yourself? I don't know if you say redeem yourself, but, you know, what would you say to, you know, the people who are not here in order to give you 4 more years?
Well, that's a good question for me to try to answer, because
I framed it up wrong, but
and I know you're doing it to try to help me. Yes, I am not a good Southerner. I do not have the Southern way to me. And let me say this to you. I respect the Southern way. I just don't fit it. I wasn't brought up that way. You are what, let me say it this way. Whatever you model is what the result of your kids are going to be. I was brought up in Yankee land. When you got in line and held me up, I was rude to you. I have not learned to overcome that.